All right, listen closely, defenders, because we've got a highly critical situation unfolding right now. I am issuing an immediate Code Ninja security advisory regarding a severe zero-click vulnerability within the Adobe CAI Content Credentials architecture. Tracked officially as CVE-2026-34711, this is an unpatched integer overflow flaw, and it currently leaves your application perimeter completely exposed to immediate remote denial of service attacks. As of this exact moment, there is no verified patch available from the vendor. Nothing. So this explainer is your primary intel drop on the mechanics of the threat and how to establish your interim defensive posture. Let's get into it. To really grasp the urgency here, just look at how fast this timeline escalated. The CVE was initially reserved in the database way back on March 30th, 2026, but it went completely live with its official publication just days ago on June 9th. And literally by the very next day, June 10th, live threat intelligence platforms like OffSec's Threat Radar were actively tracking its footprint in the wild. The sheer speed of this escalation is exactly why we're initiating this explainer today. We have a twofold objective here: to arm you with immediate manual mitigation strategies to lock down your environments, and, quite frankly, to shine a massive spotlight on this exposure to force a rapid official vendor patch from Adobe. Okay, let's dive into this. The absolute most dangerous variable in this entire equation is 0. That represents the number of clicks, the amount of user interaction, and the level of privileges an adversary needs to execute this attack. 0. None whatsoever. Look, this isn't some phishing campaign where you have to trick a distracted employee into clicking a bad link or downloading a malicious file. No way. This is a severe, remote, zero-click threat. The attacker literally just sends a specially crafted payload across your network, and your application perimeter simply folds. But before we break down the exact technical protocol of the exploit itself, I need to initiate a quick comms check. In situations where 0 days or unpatched vulnerabilities are live, establishing a secure, persistent communication link for real-time intel drops is a strict security necessity. So establish your secure link right now. Step 1, subscribe to @cybertech79. Step 2, make sure you enable your notifications so you absolutely do not miss the patch alert when it finally drops. And step 3, hit that like button right now as a formal ACK, an acknowledgement that you've received this intel transmission loud and clear. Got it? Awesome. Let's move forward. Let's initiate the deep dive. The core mechanical failure driving this exploit is classified as CVE-190, an integer overflow or wraparound. Basically, this happens when an application tries to perform a math operation that results in a value exceeding the maximum size the system's memory architecture can handle for that specific integer. When that value gets too massive, it wraps around to a negative or incredibly small number. And within the specific architecture of Adobe CAI Content Credentials, this math failure isn't handled gracefully at all. Actually, scratch that. It isn't handled, period. It creates a fatal error state that forces the target application to crash completely. And crucially, because this logic is exposed, an attacker can trigger this overflow remotely with almost zero effort. Because of those underlying mechanics, this vulnerability has been slapped with an official CVSS 3.1 base score of 7.5. Make no mistake, that firmly places it in the high-severity category. When you see a 7.5 attached to an unpatched vulnerability, you really need to understand the vector. This attack is initiated purely over the network. The attack complexity, it's evaluated as low, meaning the adversary doesn't need to string together complex, persistent conditions to pull it off. And, as we already established, they need 0 privileges to weaponize it against your infrastructure. So, the crucial point is, what is the actual blast radius here? Well, availability is completely compromised. An attacker can and absolutely will induce a total application crash, creating a highly effective denial of service condition. They can knock your systems offline instantly. However, and this is a silver lining based on current AI-powered threat analysis, confidentiality and integrity are not affected, meaning the attacker cannot read your sensitive data, they can't alter your files, and they can't escalate privileges to move laterally through your network. This is purely a sabotage play aimed at taking you offline. All right, now we move to triage. Administrators, seriously, I want you to take a screenshot of these exact versions right now. This isolates the specific vulnerable NPM packages within the Adobe CAI ecosystem that you desperately need to hunt down. If you're running C2Pay Web version 0.7.1 or earlier, or the core C2 package version 0.8 J01 or earlier, your perimeter is completely vulnerable to this integer overflow attack. I highly recommend spinning up open source scanners like Threat Finder to actively audit your infrastructure and dependency trees right now. Go locate these specific packages. You have to know your attack surface. Now, since we do not have an official fix from Adobe yet, your defensive posture relies 100% on interim mitigation strategies. First things first, immediately limit the exposure of any applications using these vulnerable components to untrusted networks. If it doesn't absolutely need to be public-facing right now, pull it behind a firewall or a VPN. Second, set up aggressive log monitoring, specifically hunting for unusual or repeated application crashes. Since we don't have an intrusion detection signature for the payload yet, a sudden unexplained crash of your CAI services is going to be your primary indicator of compromise. Maintain this strict posture while we wait for that official, verified patch. I want to take a quick second to address the core principle behind this specific intel drop. You see, this advisory is anchored firmly in the practice of Coordinated Vulnerability Disclosure, or CVD. Our code as white hat researchers dictates that we prioritize the defense of the global community above all else. When a critical, high-severity flaw like this goes public in the CVE database, you better believe adversaries are already reverse engineering it. If the vendor lags on providing a functional patch, users desperately need actionable intelligence to lock down their systems manually. That's exactly why we're disclosing this detailed structural analysis today, to make sure you're armed and ready before threat actors can deploy their automated scanners. We're going to keep monitoring the OffSeek threat radar and the CVE databases for any status changes on CVE 2026-34711. Keep your comms link open, enforce those intro mitigations we talked about, and watch your application logs like a hawk for any signs of an active denial of service attempt. Remember, the perimeter is only as strong as our collective vigilance. Think about it. If a zero-click DOS can lay dormant in core architecture for this long, what else is hiding in our dependency trees? Stay vigilant, and until the next critical intel drop, stay secure.